You are now tuned in to the Healing Hotgirl Podcast, made for women who are finally giving themselves permission to show up as the women they always knew they could be. If you're here, that means you're ready for an upgrade. So, without further ado, let's get into this episode. Hey, Healing Hotgirls, and welcome back to the next episode of the podcast. So today we have a special guest with us. I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her.
Hey everyone, my name is Camila from Camaya Healing. I am an Akashic Records practitioner, Reiki facilitator, energy healer. I am a single mama of two, and I am, as you addressed me, a light worker. I'm just here to spread the wisdom and knowledge of healing and believing in self, empowering self. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I love that. So for those of us who don't know what you do specifically, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So essentially I'm an intuitive practitioner, or you could call it a psychic.
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of stigma around the word psychic, so I do prefer intuitive practitioner. And I work with, my main focus with my clients is to work on subconscious reprogramming, so we could kind of begin to believe in ourselves and our abilities to heal, our abilities to manifest. I also feel like a lot of my work entails connecting my clients with, making their spirituality more tangible or more, for them to be able to understand better what spirituality and how it manifests for them, helping them understand how spirituality works for them and giving them steps or tools, providing those things for them in order for them to create their own, their spiritual habits, and rather that spirituality being something that they're not sure about, it's something that they begin to incorporate in their day-to-day. I feel like when we find that balance between spiritual and human, we're able to create more of that reality that we desire to see. We're able to understand more how magical we are, how powerful, how gifted we all are, especially as women. So when we incorporate spirituality and human, we now start to see like those results we want to see, right? And so for me, that's how I work with my clients, and these are the same practices that I incorporate with myself. Now, in terms of readings, I do intuitive readings, and that's with tarot, oracle, but I also work with the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records are essentially what I like to call the network of the universe.
Okay.
It's essentially, long story short, it's essentially kind of like the dimension that holds all the raw data of the universe. So, every person, place, or thing has an Akashic Records, and we are able to access them through various forms. I do it through a pathway prayer process. With that, we're able to understand better the blueprint of your soul or your soul contract for this lifetime. We're able to understand better your past lives, how they're influencing your current life. We're able to understand karmic contracts, soulmates. We're able to understand what current energies are influencing, blocking, or working with or against your current life. And I also developed a modality within the Akashic Records called Akasha Energy Healing, which is a form of energetic healing that allows me to work in tandem with your spirit guides to help you clear energy that's no longer serving, whether it be karmic contracts, expired karmic cords, or just as simple as getting you to meet them, helping you find that space in the ethers where you are able to understand who walks with you, what spirit guides, or it could also be ancestors. I've connected people to their ancestors. That is a kind of like a sensitive area to tread in, because we won't always hear names, but we'll see images and stuff, but at least you'll start to get an understanding of who or what walks with you, and just getting to know what is with you beyond what you can see. And I hope that makes sense.
Yes, and I love that. I didn't even know you did all of that, because I've been looking to explore, especially learning my spirit guides and knowing who they are, because sometimes I'll be like, I don't know who watching me, but I'm gonna talk to you. So I love that.
So it's interesting because for me, I feel a lot of my clients are folks, specifically women, that are at this point where you are, where you're like, all right, who's with me? What do I do to connect with them? And just people that are like, kind of like, all right, I'm ready to take that step forward, but I just don't know what to do or where to go. You know, and I feel like right now, a lot of people are going through spiritual awakening, so it's so important to be mindful of who you're connecting to, who you're opening yourself up to, who you're sharing your energy with, both as the healer and the one that's receiving the healing, and vice versa, because at the end of the day, it's still an energy exchange.
Right.
But something that I've come to learn within the Akashic records is that many times that healer, we find the authentic healer, the authentic intuitive practitioner. You know, and I say that because there's a lot of scammers out right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen and heard of it. When you find that person, there's most likely a chance you already worked with them at some caliber at some point in your life and your soul's journey.
Okay.
There was already a meeting, you know, and this was more destined, and or if you want to call it destined, or just like it was set in stone prior to you coming here. You know, it was like at this specific time, at this moment, at this level of your spiritual awakening, this is where you'll meet this person, and you will have that knowing, like, yeah, this is the person that I'm meant to work with, and that I feel comfortable opening myself up to in this way. You know, especially because opening yourself up in a spiritual way, it's a very vulnerable position. You know, you're giving access to someone, to your energetic field, and that's something that I take very seriously. To me, the fact that even people come to me, I'm just like, wow, like I'm really on this, I'm really doing this. God found me worthy to be this person, or do this in this person's lives, or be this person, you know, for whoever I'm working with. So I'm grateful that we even were able to experience an energy exchange.
Yes, and I want to piggyback off of you mentioning worthiness. How did you come to terms with the fact that you were worthy? Because I know a lot of times for me, I self-sabotage when, you know, I see myself in different rooms. I'm like, wait a minute, this person is overqualified, this person is doing this. So how did you come to terms with the fact that you were worthy and you continue to walk in that?
So a couple things. I'm still in my own process of coming to terms with what my worthiness is. And even if I might not feel it, I make sure I'm exerting more than what I feel I'm worthy. So I could feel that I'm this worthy, but I exert that I'm this worthy, because at the end of the day, there's really no set number or on our value, on our worth, right? So until I get to that point where I truly believe that, I try to exert more than what I feel, because we have to start somewhere. Right. And we're all in a process of healing. We're all in a process of accepting that we are worthy.
That's
and
true.
Believing it, you know. That is something that's very difficult for a lot of people. And I feel like as women, we struggle with accepting or wanting to give ourselves more credit than, you know, we feel we deserve. So that's one. Two, external validation has supported a lot of my journey with what worthiness is, and not that I seek it, and not that that's what my worthiness depends on, but feedback from my clients helps a lot, you know. And even if it's as simple as, like, for example, when I started my own spiritual journey, I started with group meditations, like virtual group meditations on Zoom during the pandemic.
Wow.
So simple things like that, where people would tell me, wow, that was such an experience. Like, you really took me very far away, or I was able to see this or experience this. That made me realize I do have something. There is something that I have to offer to the world. And the more I started, like, recognizing that and believing in myself, in tandem with that feedback, that helped a lot. But lastly, more than anything, my two daughters, I talk a lot about self-love and believing in self with them. And in preaching to them, I'm preaching to myself, you know? So I have to lead by example. I have to lead them by example. So if I want them to believe they're worthy, I have to believe that, regardless of the feedback I'm getting or not.
Right.
I just feel that testimonials, feedbacks, those moments where I end up crying in a session with a client, that all tells me, like, I'm where I'm meant to be, and I'm good at this.
Yes.
And I'm worthy of being here. And I wouldn't be here now. This client wouldn't have chosen me if God didn't want me here.
That's right.
You know? And the last, and I forgot to mention it before, is when I accepted that I am one with God. When I accepted that I was one with God and understood what that meant, that's when I knew it. There's no reason for me not to be here.
Yeah.
Or to not be qualified to be here or worthy of being here in this room, in this space, in this moment.
So you did talk about your relationship with God and knowing that you are one with Him. So how did you come to cultivate that relationship? Because I know there's a lot of, again, you said there's a lot of stigma around spirituality, and a lot of people are moving away from, I call it old age spirituality, where you're like, you have to go to the church, you have to do things this way, you have to do things a certain way. So I want to ask you, how did you come to cultivate your own relationship, and what should people do if they're looking for that?
Right. So there's religion and there's spirituality, and I believe that you could be religious and spiritual at the same time.
Okay.
But I do feel that there's certain religious practices that don't allow, or don't give room for spirituality, right? I believe in God in a more etherical way, rather than God, I need to report to church and, you know, eat the body of Christ and so on and so forth. That's not my practice with God. Okay. My practice with God took a very long time to my connection to God took a very long time to happen, to come into fruition, for me to understand, like, I'm one with God. Yeah. But it was like the silliest thing, the way it happened. I really used to struggle with the word God, because to me, at the time, and this was about 4 years ago, my belief system was that God was who we've been taught in a religious setting. And then one day I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see a comment, you know, about, I do a lot of research on, you know, just cosmic things and whatnot. And I saw a comment that said, I don't remember what the question was. It was something along the lines of, how do you know it's God, or how do you know it's the universe, right? And while God and the universe are interchangeable, one can be the other for someone. That's when I realized, because the person responded, the universe holds a lot of entities that's demonic, angelic, human, aliens, whatever. But God is just one. God is just light. Something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, is not exact. And that's when I realized, that's when it hit me. I'm like, I could believe in God. I could trust in God. God is not who I've learned to be. Like, that's not who God is. God is light, and God is what I make it to be. God can be the universe, or there can be God and the universe, right? You get to decide that. But when that reality hit me, for me, I'm like, wow. And I'm just a droplet of the universe. I'm a droplet of, to me, God, and the universe to me, you know, they could be one and the same in my belief system, right? Okay. When I realized, I was like, my soul is just a droplet of God. My vessel is God. It was as if God grabbed a piece of himself, chose my vessel, filled it with my soul, which is that droplet, and it was like, all right, now this version of me gets to exist, right? And the same goes with you. God created your vessel, grabbed the droplet of, you know, which is your soul of himself, and it could be in himself, herself, itself, and now this is a manifestation of this version of God. You get me? Yeah. I mean, I could be crazy town right now, but that's just the way I see it, because we get to decide what our relationship is with God. Right. And to me, you know, once I accepted I am one with God, that allowed me to love myself a lot more, that allowed me to feel much worthier, and that helped me feel very empowered.
I love
you
that,
know,
yes.
in my own path, in my own journey. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. I think a lot of people need that because we get so wrapped up in what's right and what's wrong. And especially now in this day and age where everybody has a platform, everybody has a mic, everybody has an opinion, it's difficult to walk proudly in that.
Yeah.
So I love that you're able to do that. Would you have a piece of advice for anyone who might still be struggling or might still be on the fence with, standing 10 toes down on their beliefs?
To me, it depends also on what is influencing them to not be 10 toes down on that.
Okay.
Is it family? Is it their religious upbringing? Is it their environment? Is it the people they're chilling with? Is it school? What is it that is influencing them to not believe in themselves or believe in God or whatever they choose to believe in? Because at the end of the day, if you don't want to believe in God, that's okay.
That's true.
But one thing we could all come into accordance with is that there is the universe, right? So if you don't want to believe in God, that's cool. There's still the universe working.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to deny that.
Yeah.
So I would say it all depends on what it is that it's influencing. So first have that awareness. Okay, this is what's limiting me from accepting this belief system.
Okay.
Right? But I also want to remind everyone that most of us, our bloodlines, our ancestries, they believed in many spirits: the spirits of nature, the spirit of sun, the spirit of the ocean, the spirit of the trees. We believed in so many spirits. It wasn't just one spirit. It wasn't just the Son of God. It wasn't just one spirit, right? And one common thing that they all had, in my opinion, was that they believed in something much greater than them. Whether they believed that higher force had influence over them or not, that's a different story. But all of them did agree there was something much greater out there.
Yeah.
Like if I really got deep into it, to me, I believe that the sun is God. Sun is what gives us life, what sustains life. The sun, we need the sun to thrive. And the sun charges us, the sun illuminates us, the sun upgrades our DNA, the sun awakens us. So when we really think about it, I'm like, exactly.
You start,
it's like with the dogs when they're like confused and they're like,
exactly.
The little head tilt. That's when I realized, I was like, let me find out the sun is God.
Right.
So I know that isn't necessarily giving you advice, but it's because it's more of me wanting to encourage you to do some exploration within to
yourself,
learn what your limitations are first, and make a list of what those limitations are, and make a list of those things you're questioning. And you could definitely find an answer there or come to a conclusion that sits right with yourself, with your soul.
Yeah, so do the work, sis. Do the work. That's the advice. So, I wanted to compliment you because anytime I came across you, your energy has been calm and balanced. But I know that you do a lot of work with energy. So I want to ask you, how do you maintain this? Like, I don't think I've ever seen you. I don't want to say I've ever seen you out of character, but I've never seen you like roll your eyes, maybe. Like, I've never seen anything. You're just so calm, balanced, and bubbly. So how do you maintain that energy?
Thank you. So first things first, I'm very honest about myself. Girl, I'm chaotic as fuck.
I'm like that too.
However, it's a compliment to hear that that's the type of energy you get from me. That's calming. But I have had to do a lot of work to do that. But the thing is that I don't have beef with anyone. Like, I want to experience love all the time. I want to know what it's like to feel love, to give love. I want to feel good often. There's times where I allow myself to go into a darker space, and I think that we should all give ourselves that space, which I'm sure we'll eventually get into it. But I love love, and I'm wanting people around me to feel some sort of love, or like, okay, I could vibe around this person. I feel safe. I know the importance of needing to feel safe around someone, and if I'm not giving you that, you most likely can't give it to me, right? If I feel chaotic and nervous and anxious around someone, I'm not going to be able to provide a stable energetic field for you either.
Yeah.
Usually when I get that energy from someone, I'm probably get out the way ASAP.
Yeah.
Because if I feel stirred up inside, something ain't right, I get out the way, because that's not the place for me. That's not the environment or the energy for me. You get me?
Yeah.
But when I say that I'm chaotic, I am a woman full of emotions, and I do not, in this journey of becoming a healer, I've had to be very open and vulnerable with strangers about my emotions, and being real about the things that I experience either on a day-to-day or the cycles of my life, so for those that might know astrology, I'm a Sagittarius rising, so I'm sure that alone could tell you about my chaos.
I want to talk to you about self-trust. You mentioned that a bit. When it comes to trusting yourself, I feel like nobody talks about how difficult it can be, especially after you've had an experience where you're like, damn, like I let this person close to me. How did I not see that? I find myself, replaying that a little bit. What are some steps, maybe not steps, but like some tips you could give when it comes to self-trust, like whether it's challenging yourself a little more, or just giving yourself the opportunity to trust yourself? Like, how do you do that, basically?
So yeah, self-trust is definitely another work in progress, but let me tell you some of my backstory. I was in a pretty toxic relationship for 10 years that once I got out of it, I had to go through all those questions of like, how did I allow this, and why didn't I see this before? And I've had to do a lot of self-healing in conjunction with therapy and stuff around the effects of gaslighting. Gaslighting alone could really break your self-trust, especially if you didn't really have that foundation to begin with. So I've had to work a lot with affirmations and with breath work and with allowing those moments of me having to cry and release it and continuously affirm myself. I trust myself. I've had to go through a lot of trials and errors, and but I realized I have to be my own best friend. I have to trust myself. I have to trust my inner voice, my higher self. And if I don't trust in myself, I don't trust in God.
That's true.
So if you are struggling to trust in yourself, you're struggling to trust in God, you just gotta have faith in yourself. And if you say like, you know what, this is what I feel and this is what I hear here, and I'm pointing at my third eye, not here. Because our ears listen to what they want to hear, not what it is.
Yes.
And our eyes see what they want to see, not what it is. That's why you got to be, as you say, 10 toes down. You got to be 10 toes down with that third eye. And that takes work. That takes practice. That is not a one-day thing.
Yeah. And
it's okay to reflect. It's okay to go back and question why. But those same experiences are the ones that lead us to trust ourselves. Those same experiences where we betrayed ourselves over and over because either our peeps told us, and when I say peeps, our spirit guides told us, or our spirit, like our own spirit, our soul, our higher self told us. We were told many times. And we chose not to listen because, again, we heard what we wanted to hear and we saw what we wanted to see. And it's those same experiences, looking back in that reflection mode, where we realize all the moments that we were told something, or where we were warned, or we were shown something that if we would have listened that first time, we wouldn't be here. So it's not to be hard on yourself. It's not to punish yourself or be like, how could you do that? No. Take that moment to reflect and look at all the patterns. Get to know the patterns. Get to know the moments you have doubted or questioned yourself. And you know what? Like, this might not be the best piece of advice, but no matter what, even if in that moment you're wrong, at least you're trusting yourself to make that decision.
Right.
At least you're trusting yourself to make create that opinion. And then, because I do believe in going into reflection often, then reflect like, okay, I could see how I didn't, but at least in that moment you chose to go with what you felt in that moment, rather than letting an external force influence you to something else. Again, I don't know if that's the best word of advice, but it's just like we all have to start somewhere, with our self-trust process.
No, I understand that wholeheartedly, because that's something that I've been doing. I'm trying to rebuild that trust within myself, and it comes with a lot of trial and error, I'll tell you that. But I have been experiencing everything that you're talking about, which is crazy. That's where I am on my journey. So I want to ask you, when it comes to life lessons, what's one thing that you are still struggling to grasp? Like one lesson that you're still trying to find the solution to?
This one's gonna take a bit to figure out, because honestly, like, just when I think I got something figured out,
it's like, curveball.
Let me mess with you some more. I would say, and this is just being entirely honest, a lot around finances and spirituality. Finding the balance between what it is to be plugged into the matrix to make ends meet, because I sway one way or the other very hard.
Oh my God, I'm like that
so
too.
spiritual that I forget that this human world even exists, or I plug myself in so hard I forget that there's a whole spiritual world that I could work, a whole energetic world that I could work to make more things happen for me in the human realm, right? So finding that balance between spirit and human is definitely an ongoing lesson for me, and a lesson of balance, because I can go, again, Sagittarius rising, those extremes, and I'm also a Pisces moon, so I could be in La La Delulu land a lot. And some, just finding the balance between human and spiritual, because at the end of the day, I am human. I'm in this physical vessel. And just because I discovered my spiritual abilities does not mean that I get to escape into the other realm.
Right. So you still have to exist in both realms.
Yes.
And you have to learn that balance.
And sometimes even just be okay with existing in the human realm, and being okay with the things that we experience in the human realm. The struggles, the challenges, the emotions.
Yeah, the emotions. Oh my gosh. I'm still trying to teach myself to actually feel. Like, it's okay to feel, girl. Let the emotions flow over you. And I'm just like, oh my God, I don't feel like feeling today, please.
Yes, but what I have learned is that, and what I like to explain to anyone that deals with similar things, is that our emotions are what reminds us that we're superhuman. Our superhuman abilities. Our emotions is what remind us that we are empathic, and that we are able to experience different things all at the same time, and we get to experience them with this human vessel.
Yes.
I think the most important thing, though, with emotions is learning how to process and transmute them, so they don't stay stuck in our body. From those stuck emotions, that's when there's more repercussions. But I think that emotions, when we really come to accept that they're a gift, and we learn how to process, we allow ourselves to feel. One, I feel that empowers us, and as women, because at the end of the day, we are the portals. We are the portal to bring souls into this earth, So because of just that superhuman ability, what comes with that is emotions, and what comes with rage. With rage, we make changes. We make radical changes, because we're like, no. No, and I am not okay with this, and I will not stand with this. With pain and sorrow, we understand how deep we're able to truly feel, how much we actually loved something or someone, know. With extreme happiness and joy and excitement, we're able to understand the things that we love, that spark joy, that inspire us, that feel like the sun is hitting our face, Does that make sense?
Yes, and I love that you explained it like that, because I've never thought about it like that. Everything is teaching you something. You just have to figure out what it is.
I also feel that duality. You can't have darkness without light, and vice versa.
You tell me that all the time.
Huh?
I said you tell me that every time we speak.
Really?
Like, you need to find your balance. You need to go into that dark side, sis.
But with that comes, if we won't know happiness without sadness, So it's surrendering to the emotions. And I know that's not easy because we've been conditioned, not only us, but for generations, we've been conditioned to push emotions to the side,
right,
to hide emotions, to not feel, to repress, to this and that. No, you know what? I have now given myself permission to process emotions, to sit and cry, to be enraged, you know, if I need to.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people were also coming up in survival mode. So it's like you didn't really, if you're a single mom trying to make everything happen, you don't really have time to tap into your emotions.
That I definitely relate to survival mode. I do co-parent, but on the days that I have my children, I feel like it's very difficult, or I'm kind of like on the edge between survival mode and flowing. It's very difficult for me to just flow when on the days that I have my children, because it's a certain structure. It's it's like making sure my children have everything they need. Many times I'm disregarding my own needs and stuff, and I have to constantly remind myself, like, just because it's just you and them does not mean that you need to suffer or you need to feel like you're surviving.
Yes.
Because right away when I start falling into that mode, I have to reel it back and remind myself, like, I'm trusting God. God put me here in this moment. God placed me here for a reason. It's just constant cycles of adjustment, adjusting life, adjusting habits, adjusting routines or ways of thinking, that way that I'm adjusting to my environment or adapting to my environment, so I'm not constantly in and out of survival mode.
Okay. So when it comes to having that balance, so you haven't grasped the balance of self-care and being mom, or you have, or it's like
it's pretty up, but I think that that's something that, I mean, I would love to meet a mom that have
right.
It's like, if there are moms out there that have been able to master that, please teach me.
Yeah.
The main thing that, and this is not disrespect or singling people out, what I've noticed is the mothers that have managed to find some balance within that, and even then these same mothers are like, nah, I don't know how to do that, are mothers that do have that more supportive environment, you know, whether they have a partner at home or they have family support. But even so, like I said, those same mothers, I know plenty of mothers that do have those supportive environments, and they still struggle, because at the end of the day, we want to put our children first, right? We want that. If we got a couple extra bucks, we want it to go to our children. So I think it's something that has helped me find a little bit of that balance, is being a little selfish sometimes. Like, you know, instead of buying my kid the snack they've been asking me for, like, no, I'm going to get my nails done, you know? And that's okay. One thing my best friend taught me, that she has inspired me to do recently, is like, just pick one thing that helps you feel good. For her, it's her lashes. For me, it's my nails, let's say. And just invest in that.
That's your self-care.
One thing,
I love that.
invest in that, and allow yourself to treat yourself, and just trust that you're always going to have the funds or the resources for that one thing, and little by little start expanding on that. So now you're going from a gel manicure to full sets, you know. So like I said, for her it's lashes and her skincare, you know. So she starts with just like, I'm doing my lashes at home, and then she progresses to she's going to someone to get her lashes. So she said that, kind of like planted that seed in my head, and since then I've been really trying to follow that, and I've noticed the difference. Something else that has helped me find the balance is I created a little box called my God box, and I put my little wishes in there. I write my wish, and I'll put like, every 2 weeks I have funds and resources to get my nails done, and I'll make sure that whenever I have those, like, let's say my nails are $60, when I have $60 and my nails need to get done, I ensure that it goes to that, you know. Because yes, I might want to get something for my kid. I might be like, you know what, instead of me getting my nails done, let me go out and eat something with my children. Like, no, I want to get my nails done, and the universe repays me. You know, the money always comes back tenfold. It always finds a way back, because money just continues to cycle, right? So I know I'm blabbering a lot, but the point is, it's like sometimes like we have to be a little selfish. It's okay. It does not make us a bad mom if we pick ourselves first. It is okay. And I think, oh my God, if we have if we give that example to our children, we're setting them up for them to have that mindset, that abundant mindset as well. Especially, I'm raising 2 daughters, you know, so I want them to prioritize their self-care. And it's not just nails, it's their self-care around their emotions, about their physical, their mental, and their spiritual needs, you know.
Yeah. So I love that you're instilling that in them at a young age. We're going to go back to something that you mentioned earlier about, I was calling them false prophets, but that's not the word that you used. Like people who... Scammers, yes. That's what it is. So I want to ask you, like, how do we as consumers protect ourselves against those kind of people, because it's gotten really out of control?
Yeah.
So what are some steps that we can do, or we can take outside of that to better protect ourselves?
Right. And that's where everything we just spoke about comes into place. That self-trust, that trust in God.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, just because I do what I do doesn't mean you need me.
That's
you
true.
Need nothing but yourself and God.
That's true.
But the main thing, especially if it's on a social media setting, is one main factor that will help you differentiate from a scammer and a real authentic healer is no one should be contacting you for services. The only time that I have contacted someone for services is because we spoke in person and I'm following up.
Okay.
Or, you know, maybe I just haven't streamlined my booking process and I'll follow up with a client like, hey, are you ready to book your follow-up session? Things of that sort.
Okay.
Or if I have like a newsletter or like an email chain or something, like just letting you know I have this special going on. But other than that, for no reason should one be contacting you like, hey, I received this message from my ancestors, blah, 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 from your ancestors.
I know that keyword. Oh my God.
That is so,
no.
And it's happened to me where people have created accounts with Camaya Healing and have contacted relatives, friends. Like, I mean, I've had people pretty upset at me, and I'm like, bro, that wasn't even me.
Right.
I didn't do this.
Oh my God.
So that is the number one thing. 2, if I ever tell you I got a message from you, I'm giving you that message.
Right.
I'm not gonna charge you. I'm not going to I'm not gonna take money from you. It's because, usually the way that's happened to me is where I'll get like a ping in my head, like, oh, check up on this person. I'll check up on the person. I'll be like, hey, you good? I just felt something and I just want to check in.
Yeah.
I'll never be like, oh, I got all these messages and you need to book me, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Oh no.
Another thing is that's where it comes into trusting your intuition is something won't feel right about that person. You know, something won't feel right about their energy. And I think that is very crucial for you to really be connected to either your intuition or trust yourself or be in tune enough with energies around you where you're aware that something isn't sitting right with this. Like I said, like if someone's energy is too much or all over the place for me, I remove myself from that environment because something's not right there. You know? I mean, and there's a lot of pages that give a lot of tips on what to look out for. Things sort of like, let's say with my name, Camaya Healing, right? A false account will have dashes and periods and numbers and extra letters and stuff. That's another warning sign. But if you're dealing with this in a in-person setting, the biggest thing is really just fill out the energy. And even so, like we could be in person just meeting, not tell you what you want. Don't book with me right away. Get to know me first.
Right.
Follow me for a little, you know. Or if you even like book a consultation to get to know each other, you know, take your time in exploring who that person is, you know. And I would say even like I follow people for months at a time before I even like, if someone calls my attention, I'll follow them. I'll get to know them through Instagram or social media or whatever. I'll listen to their lives. I'll see who their partnerships are and things of that sort. I observe them because I want to understand first who I'm about to open up my energy to.
Right.
And also things like referrals or word of mouth, that kind of helps you filter some of that, you know. I think we met at Luna, but through your cousin.
Yeah.
That right there, you got firsthand experience. Like, oh, I worked with this person. This is how it felt. But even so, just because that person had a good experience with the healer, it doesn't mean you are. So, you know, still take that time. But like I said, many times I feel like when you really connect with an authentic healer, you just know in that moment. And something just feels right. And it almost feels like, I feel like I've met this person before. I feel like, like this person knows me or understands me. I feel seen. You know? And I think that our intuition definitely helps us see people's pure intentions, or not pure,
That's true. And the thing is, we gotta trust that. We always second guess. I know I used to second guess before I challenged myself to trust myself. It's like, I'm getting this, but they don't give that to nobody else. And it's like, am I not weird, but like, am I looking too deep? But I'm like, a lot of times I be right. So it's like, exactly. A lot of times you be right.
Something that's also coming in is the person, the spiritual mentor, or whoever you're choosing to work with, they should not judge you for your own spiritual practices. On the contrary, they should either direct you on a let's say if you're doing certain work and you're not setting the right protection or something, they'll guide you through that rather than judge you. And they will definitely not tell you, no, this is how it needs to be.
Right.
That is a big warning call. If you feel like you're being told what to do rather than guided, I feel like that's a warning as well.
Okay, I love that. So this is leading me right into this next point. So do you have any advice for an upcoming light worker?
I think that before you dive into any work with healing other people, you first need to get acclimated with your shadow. You need to get acclimated with the fact that we have multiple voices in our head, okay? And be okay with that and not question your sanity. Because those voices are your ego, your higher self, your spirit guides. It's a plethora, your inner child, it's a plethora of voices in our head. And you got to learn how to distinguish each and every one, so you know that when you choose to start working with people or on people, you have that discernment of what is guiding you.
Okay.
Because there is such thing as a spiritual ego too. Your ego becomes spiritual, right?
Yeah.
And your ego tries to influence, and that's what I mean. Be very mindful of the ones that try to tell you how things are supposed to be rather than just guiding you.
Yeah.
So discernment is very important, but getting to know yourself on all levels, you will have that moment where you'll realize, like, all right, I think I'm ready to start practicing. But also, don't feel like being a light worker means just one thing. Being a light worker can just be what you're doing. Being a host for a podcast and holding space for people's voices to be heard. That alone is a light worker.
Yeah.
To me, a light worker is someone that's doing something to create a bigger change in this world, or help shift a collective reality, So don't ever feel like being a light worker is one specific role.
Yeah.
Being a light worker can be like you are just the graphic designer for, a fundraising company, right? That could be a light worker. It's just being able to express your creativity and your gifts to the world, and with the purpose of creating bigger change, or better change for the collective.
I love that, because I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, I have to learn to read cards because of this, and it's like, you don't necessarily have to do that. That might not be for you.
Exactly. No, there's no one. Light workers aren't just spiritual or healer. Healers. And like I said, at the end of the day, the best way you could be a light worker is that relationship between you and God, you and yourself. The best way you could be a light worker is heal yourself, because that alone shifts the reality that you're in, That helps shift the collective reality. So.
I love that. So I think you touched on really everything that I was gonna share today. She got a little ahead of herself. But I am super glad that we got to have this episode. I'm going to let you plug your social platforms so they can follow you.
Thank you. So if you want to follow me, I'm Camaya Healing, Camaya Healing, on Instagram and TikTok. And there you can find my link in bio, how to book, and all my services. And if you want to email me, or if you have any questions, info@Camaya Healing. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you for holding the space and allowing me to just show the world a little more of what I do, who I am, and the thoughts in my head.
I love that, and I'm so glad that you decided to come on. Hopefully again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, whenever. I love this.
Good. So, that's all we have today, Hot Girls. So don't forget that Hot Girls need healing too, but that's what we're here for. I love y'all. We'll see y'all in the next episode.
Bye.